Hello and greetings. Hello everyone, my name is Scott. I am joining you from Arizona and I am 36 years old. Nice to meet you. Hey, welcome invaders. This is my Booktube Newbie Tag. And this hopefully will let you learn more about me as a reader, me as a person, and hopefully you enjoy it and we can start a great reading book nerd friendship.
I think we're gonna be friends.
Number one, why did you start this channel? Well, there are a few different reasons. In the last 3 or 4 years, I'd started reading a lot more, in my adult life since like high school. So I started binging on audiobooks during my commute to and from work, and I was just gobbling up as much stuff as I could, and I was getting into different online communities and talking about the books that I've read and recommending different things and finding new books and recommending those books to my friends. At my work, the place that I worked at, there was a group of 4 or 5 of us who also were avid readers, and we would all talk about kind of the same genre of books and recommend things to each other. And then one of those coworkers introduced me to BookTube. They're all talking about the books that they love. I want to do that, and then so my coworkers were like, you should start it. I'd watch it, and I was like, oh, okay. So this is my, first time creating a YouTube channel. You can see the videos I've done in the past before. Those are kind of the range of different types of stories that I want to talk about. So those are just the books that I like, and I want to share those books with everybody. I also kind of want to do it to be an advocate for the authors, the authors who may not get as much publicity or something like that. I like building relationships with kind of the, not the unknown, but like the less popular authors. Before this, I'd ran an indie music blog for about 10 or 12 years.
Hey, did you guys read my blog? Hey, did you read my blog? You've probably never heard of it.
Doing that, I built relationships with different bands throughout the country, and so I built a good relationship with kind of bands, and now I've kind of stopped going to as much concerts and now dived into the world of books. So I kind of want to be, like an advocate for these authors and say, hey, I'm reading, I'm a fan of yours, and I want to help everyone else become a fan of yours. So this is kind of why I'm creating this content, to help them out as well. Number 2, what fun and unique things will you bring to BookTube? Hopefully, after I get my program squared away, I can add some super cool editing effects. And I can bring a kind of a funny, snarky perspective to things. I really like dark humor and sarcasm. That doesn't really lend itself well to Twitter or things like that. And I can add a different kind of perspective, a different voice to the community. Just a guy reading some books. I'm just a casual reader. It's kind of like, hey, on the surface level, this was fun, and I had a good time reading it, and I hope you can too. What are you most excited for about this channel? Meeting people, having some relationships built, having a crowd of followers that, we can all talk about, and hopefully I can hit some nerves with some good books, and, that can be spread, and we can all say, oh, I read it based on your recommendation, or, because you read this book, I read this other book, things like that. So I'm excited to kind of build a bit of a following and also kind of connect with some authors and hopefully do, author interviews and find them, when they come to town on conventions and hang out with that kind of crowd. Why do you love reading? I love reading just like anyone else loves reading. It's just, I enjoy it because it's just fun. I enjoy traveling to these other worlds in my head and befriending these silly characters. I like going on the adventure. I like going, diving into these different stories. And I look at it from the story aspect, but I also look at these type of things from the author's perspective and say, this person made this story out of their own blood, sweat, and tears, and it's not something that they take lightly, and it's something that I kind of want to absorb, and I want to kind of be into the same world that they were building. It's something where I think about the person who wrote this and the different iterations it had gone through, the editing and the processing, and this is the final product. Like, this is it. So, you know, I tend not to DNF books because I just, you know, I want to see it through. I want to finish the whole thing and say, okay, like this, at the end of this, how do I feel about it? 5, what books or series got you into reading? You know, in my last reading spree, when I started driving an hour to work, the first series kind of that kicked off my audiobook spree, I think, was part of the Ender's Game series. I got through like the first 3 books, and then I moved on to things like Old Man's War, and I went through that series. That kind of kicked off my audiobook spur over the last 3 years or so. And before that, you know, I read a bit in high school. There wasn't really a series that I followed. I think I read a bunch of like Dragonlance books. That's one I kind of remember. But after high school and in college, I wasn't really reading books. It was only until like, you know, I had my first child. I was off work and I started kind of reading on the Kindle a little bit when my free time had dissolved. You know, and I found I had an hour commute at work, and I was booming through all of my stuff on my iPod. I started getting audiobooks, so that kind of kicked me off, and it was kind of sci-fi stuff. It didn't get me into reading, but it got me into the reason that I dove into all that stuff to start, obviously, this channel. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Hey guys, how's it going? Favorite booktubers? I would just ask them, hey guys, what you reading? What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Obviously, having the time to make these videos and the editing time. You know, I want to make it kind of unique and add editing elements and effects and things like that. That takes a lot of time. So it's just the time aspect. You know, still after 3 or 4 years, you know, having the energy and the motivation to keep doing it, and hopefully have a big following and people that can engage and things like that, and still there being unique things being done. When did you start reading? I started, you know, reading in school like anyone. I think the first book that I remember carrying around was the Indian in the Cupboard. And then for school we read Hatchet. Oh, I was pre-Harry Potter, so I didn't hit that craze when I was little. I think growing up, I remember being into Ender's Game. I picked that one up out of the library, out of the blue. Or we have ordered the Fraggle Rock books. Let me grab one of those.
Worries for another day. Let the music play. Down in Fraggle Rock.
This is one of the Fraggle Rock books called What's a Fraggle? It was great. This was from Weekly Reader Books. There's another one, Gobo and the Prize from Outer Space. You know, there was about 7 or 8 of these Fraggle Rock books, which were awesome. And I love those. Question number 9, where do you read? I read in the car. Audiobooks are my preferred format. And if I like an audiobook enough, you know, I'll scour different discount bookstores online and thrift stores to find hardcovers. Yeah, I prefer hardcovers just because they're a nice, thick, heavy tome of words that came out of somebody's brain that went through different, you know, grinders and editors to produce this piece. So I like having the hardcover. You know, it's just resilient. It's a brick of a book. But anyway, yeah, I read in the car, pretty much. What kind of books do you like to read? Fiction, sci-fi, horror, thriller, contemporary, I suppose. Those are the kind of books I read. You can see I have the Red Rising trilogy, Shades of Magic, Bird Box, Ready Player One, The Martian. Those are the kind of books that I like to read. I'll throw in a bonus question. What are some of your favorite authors? I would say John Scalzi, Hugh Howey, Pierce Brown, Ernest Cline, Andy Weir, V. Schwab. So that's my newbie tag. Hope you enjoy it. I hope it's well received. I'm excited to become part of the community. Thank you all for watching, and let's all just read a good book and have a good time. See ya.